Hi. So my presentation is over John Dewey, and one of his main things, which I really, I guess, took interest to, was basing your curriculum off of children's interests. And when I read that, I thought that was so important because I can remember, being in middle school and high school and listening to my teachers and not being interested in what they were saying because I wasn't interested in it, and I just didn't want to listen to it because it didn't have anything to do with me. It didn't make a lot of sense, which it was important to listen to, and I should have probably listened a little harder and paid a little more attention, but I just felt like I don't know, it just didn't strike me as interesting, and I wasn't interested in it. So I really think that, like, focusing, like, in early childhood, especially, like, in pre-K and kindergarten, if we're talking about things that's interesting to them, relating it to education, of course, and what they have to learn and things like that, but they'll be, excited to learn about it, and they'll remember it. They'll go home and say, Mom, Dad, I learned this, and I learned this, and, it's just something they'll remember. So an example, I actually have two examples from whenever I was in elementary school. So I was in second grade, and we were learning about butterflies and how they go from a caterpillar, they form the cocoon, and then, wake up and they're a butterfly. And it's not as it's interesting to learn about, but you're looking at, pictures in your textbook and you're hearing your teacher talk about it, and it's like, oh, that's really cool, but, it's like you want to see this. And so my class, we actually all got a caterpillar, and we all got to watch them turn into butterflies. It was a long process, but it was so exciting because every day I would be so excited to go to school and go into the classroom and see, because I remember the day that that he hung from the top and started forming his little cocoon. I was just like, oh my gosh. And so I went home and I was like, Mom, he's, in a cocoon, he's going to hatch into a butterfly, and I'll never forget that. And we drew pictures every day of what they looked like. And that was so exciting because we were actually seeing it happen rather than, like just looking at it in a textbook and looking at pictures of it. We were drawing the pictures. We were seeing it happen. And another example is I was in fourth grade, and we were learning about chickens and how they hatch from eggs. We were kind of learning about that whole process. And, again, you see it in a textbook, you listen to it, but when you experience it, so I guess my interest is hands-on. That's what I like, seeing it for myself, doing it for myself. So, but anyway, and so we had an incubator, and we got all these fertilized eggs, and we got to, we had them in the incubator, which it wasn't as, like, you couldn't really draw the pictures because it was just an egg every single day. It didn't really evolve into anything, but we kept them in an incubator, and every single day, like, as it got closer to the time for them to hatch, every single day, we were like, oh my gosh, they're going to hatch soon, they're going to hatch soon. And I remember I was sitting, we would sit in our gym to wait before school started, and we were all running to our class, and we were so excited, and the chickens were starting to hatch, and we actually got to see them and play with them. And actually, one of my friends took a chicken home because he had a bunch of land, and they had a chicken coop, and he took one of the chicks home. And so it was so neat because that's something I will never forget. In second grade, I was 7 or 8 years old, and I still remember, these butterflies. And then in fourth grade, I was 9 or 10, and I'll never forget, we watched chickens hatch. Like, unless you grow up on a farm and, do things like that, you don't experience that. You hear about it and that's it. You never see it. So I think, like, with John Dewey, basing off of, like, children's interests and what they like to learn about and how they like to learn, I think it's important to base your curriculum that way because it'll make them love school. Like I said, every single day I was so excited to go to school to see how these butterflies were doing, to see how these eggs were doing. And I think if we, focus on, doing something that wants the kids to come to school and love school, because I feel like we grow up and we start to hate school because it's not interesting. We're having to do all this work that we don't want to do. Obviously in college it is interesting. This is what we're going to be doing forever, But in middle school and high school, nobody really knows why we're there, It's what it seems like. And so I think by, starting early, and you build the love for school early, and they'll want to come to school and they'll want to learn because it's interesting, and it's, the teacher is working to, build their interest and keep them engaged. So that's what I have to say about John Dewey. He's awesome. His work was amazing, but his idea of forming their curriculum based on interests is just something that, I mean, it really, like, I was reading it and I was like, oh my goodness. So anyway, thank you.